Welcome to the Hey Jimmy podcast. For years, these five fools have spent way too much time together debating the most idiotic notions. Now they are recording for your pleasure. Put on your thinking caps and strap in for some weird and wild talking points.
Hey, Jimmy!
Hey, Jimmy!
How's it going, everybody?
Doing good.
Pretty not too bad.
I'm Nick.
I'm Steve.
I'm Carrie.
And I'm Joe.
Joker from Georgia. Call back to the first episode. How's everybody doing today?
Well, we're not really from here. I think people know that, we're not from here. We live here.
Yeah. We're all Long Island trash. Except for Joe.
Except
Except
for
for-
me.
Joe's still a damn Yankee. He's from.
I'm an Indiana hillbilly that moved to South Carolina.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, except the state is garbage.
Just as damned as the rest of us.
Yeah. No.
Although we had a good trip in Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, technically we were visiting Louisville, but our stay in Indiana was good.
Yeah. It was pretty good. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I have a dumpster fire moment today.
Ooh. All right, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
So I did the market. I, started the woodworking stuff, and I've never really been like a salesperson per se. Like, you have to sell yourself when you're like interviewing for jobs and whatnot. But like, I've never had to sell an object. And now I had like 200 objects to sell. Well, people don't tell you how hard it is to like deal with fucking looky-loos. Like, the amount of people that that will walk in and like touch all of your products and then go, "It's gorgeous," and then walk away. It's like the most I feel like it's the most backhanded like compliment is like to walk in and be like, "It's gorgeous," and like walk out. Well, on the last day,
I'm sorry, that's me.
there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I just like it's like one of those things where like this specific dumpster fire moment was on the last day of the market. This guy walked in and like he wanted to know about the business. He started asking questions, and at a certain point, I realized I was like, this is a very long conversation. Maybe it's a good chance this guy's going to buy like one or multiple pieces. So we keep talking. A lot of other customers come in and out, and like, I'm not really giving them attention because I'm talking to this guy. He talks my fucking ear off for 45 minutes.
This is why you need a sales job, Nick.
And then he looks at my stuff. And he goes, "Oh, it's all really gorgeous. Thanks for the convo," and walks the fuck out. And I was so like, the vendor next to me was like, "I was gonna come over and save you, but I thought he was gonna like spend a good deal of money."
Yeah.
That was the biggest dumpster fire moment I could think of. But like, it sat on my heart. I feel like if it sits like and pisses you off enough, it's a good dumpster fire moment.
Yeah, I would have threw like a baseball at the back of that guy's head.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever wasted that much of somebody's time. It's more like I don't need stuff at this point in my life, but I want to let somebody know that, like, hey, I still think your craft is awesome, even though I really don't have the capacity to buy anything right now.
And those compliments are not necessarily a bad thing, right? Just because they don't need it and or they, maybe can't afford it does not necessarily mean that it is not good quality stuff. So, it's definitely nice to hear that people are at least enjoying the quality of what you've presented. Obviously it does, not like those.
Yeah,
Right.
but don't take up an hour of my
That's
time.
a little bit, crazier. But at the same time, I think this is where your lack of sales experience might come into play, because like that might be one of those things where you just needed to kind of go, oh, excuse me for a second, let me just help this person super quick and, come back or whatever, and then not come back. Like, because the person will probably disappear. That person was just looking for somebody to talk to. And while you have a whole bunch of people there, that's not really gonna work. That guy was clearly taking up your time, just to have a conversation. But if you got people around, that's where you kind of go,
You needed Steve as your backup.
Yeah.
excuse me, I gotta look at this real quick.
Well, I didn't have any backup. Like Kenny, kind of like my partner in the woodworking stuff. He wasn't there because we were doing a build for a commercial. So he was in the shop. So I was just there like fielding by myself. Yeah, that's my dumpster fire moment for the
Well,
week.
fuck that guy.
Yeah. I hate people that go
And
past
also,
the time
Nick's
boundaries.
work is awesome.
Yes.
Yes. He makes
Check it
very good
out.
quality stuff. He's got an Etsy store too.
And I'm not sucking up because he's already my best friend.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We don't need to sponsor me. It's fine.
Hey, people should know.
I mean, speaks for itself.
I do woodworking. I make cutting boards. I make
He really knows how to work that.
coasters. And I make bottle openers, and I'm planning multiple other things. I'm going to be beta testing them all in the next couple of months. Apparently, all of these markets, I didn't realize it was such a big thing, but the markets in Chicago heavily center on vintage sellers or resellers. And it's a crazy booming business in the Midwest. I didn't realize it was that big of a thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, anywho, yeah, and I just applied for a couple of different
Awesome.
markets.
Nice.
But we'll see what happens. So I'm not
Yes,
going
this
to quit my
podcast
day
is
job
really
yet.
taking you very far. It's you don't want to drop it.
Listen, I've made ones of dollars. Talking with y'all is my commodity, and I love it. I can eat that for days. Podcast master, what is the topic for today?
Our topic for today is, if you had force powers, how long would it take you to force chokehold the bitch?
However long that guy talked to me.
Him deciding to leave immediately after.
Yeah. Okay, so my immediate question is this a stranger, or is this
Right.
a family member?
I'm gonna preface this with force choking is not necessarily a normal skill. Yeah, you kind of think the force, but it's not something that everybody can learn. So it's not common that multiple people have the exact same force power. That said, I'm assuming that this question assumes that we all have the ability to have this. So
I mean, yeah, I think it says. I mean, yeah, we'd have to assume that everybody has the force power. Of force choke.
So basically, how long would
Or
it take?
force grab.
For you to start. I'm gonna go on a limb and say, if nobody knows I have the power, probably 2 days.
48 hours with Steve.
Yeah. I mean, but that's my yeah. But that's my question. My question is are we talking about family members, or are we talking about strangers? Because strangers, I would have a lot lower tolerance than I have for my family.
Yes, that I would have that same thing, and then chances are I would the first person I'd do it to is probably a random stranger.
Yeah. Okay. Would it be a sexual thing for you or a non-sexual thing?
So it's funny that you bring up the sexual thing, because I don't think I would, as Carrie looks at me, I don't think I would force choke another person generally.
Just yourself?
Well,
Yourself?
it would bring a whole new variable into the stranger masturbation technique. Where you sit on your hand and make it go to sleep.
True.
You
True.
wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Wow.
I mean, if we were to just talk about if everybody had this power, it would be used for evil
Oh yeah, absolutely.
almost immediately. No one would like use a force power. I think in this world that we currently live in, no one would use the force power to like stop a moving car from hitting a baby. You know what I mean? Like no one would like help someone if they're about to fall. We would basically use our force powers to like punch people in the face and
I'd like to think more optimistically about it. I mean, not I don't go around just choking people now, so just because I have powers, why would I go around?
Yeah, but the advantage.
I don't think people in this day and age would use powers responsibly.
Unless I lost control of myself, I don't. Like I said, I don't go and try to choke people every day. So
The advantage, though, to having forced choke powers.
Except for your husband.
The advantage of having forced choke powers is that you can effectively kind of obfuscate yourself and like kind of just do it without anybody noticing. So like you could be across the hallway and then just be like force choke pulling a bitch and
come on, they always do the hand motion. I mean, it's gonna be pretty fucking obvious when you're trying to choke somebody.
yes, but they're doing the hand motion because they see the other person. If they're not seeing the other person, they kind of just they can keep the hand kind of close. For example, Obi-Wan Kenobi, when he's telling the stormtroopers these are not the droids you're looking for, right? He's only doing a small hand wave emotion. You can try to make as few hand movements as possible. That said, people will see it, or could see it. But if you like had a jacket over your hand, nobody's gonna see that you're actually like using the choke motion through your hand.
No one can see you're using force choke on yourself if you have a jacket over the top of you.
So first thing we need to do is get a cape. That way you can put your cape over your hand.
Yes, clearly that's the solution here.
Because that's all normal looking.
Yeah, I would use the shit out of some force persuasion for sure, but force choke not so.
But is it like one of those things where if everybody had it, no one would use it because everybody has the ability
Yeah,
to like
because-
force choke a
Well,
bitch?
that's why not everybody has
And
it.
like
Well, that's why not everybody has it, but also stuff like the force choke, force lightning, all that stuff. That's all like dark side of the force. So like the Jedi never use that stuff. That's all like the dark side of the
well,
force.
no, I mean, if we're going based on the lore of the force, like the force is good, evil, and everything. It is like the yin and yang.
Yes, but your personality also must the emotion tied to those things is also relevant. If you're not angry enough, you can't do force lightning.
Gotcha.
Like if you don't have that, if you don't like you
I
can,
guess.
you have to tap into a darker side of your soul, and if you don't do that on a natural basis, it becomes a lot harder to even attempt that.
And that's why I'm saying that the population nowadays would only ever use it for nefarious or evil. Like, and the people that were nefarious and evil would use it even more so than somebody who was good.
So I'm gonna. So I think I wouldn't really do a chokehold, but if I had the capability, the area where I would probably use this most would be in my road rage. And if somebody cut me off or something, I would probably run their car off the road. That would. Yeah.
I mean, you do that now.
So
That's called force grip.
that
I'll show you
yeah.
forced grip.
That is an ability. It's called force grip.
Thank you.
You have an ability, Steve.
Yeah, but so like I guess my next question would be is like if we all had these powers, would it after spending the first amount of time, whatever that is, month, year, we all have these newfound abilities and they become like integral to how we live our lives. At what point does it change like the commodity of like how we live our lives? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how does it change? Does money even matter anymore? Because you can just fucking force grab food. Like you could just walk into the grocery store and like force grab a sandwich and walk out. Does it change? You know what I mean? It makes farming easier because you could like fucking force. I don't know. I'm just gonna use force choke.
It won't.
I know it's you're saying like force lightning and force grip and force this, and I'm just like I'm using this power now, and I don't have to do something physically demanding.
I'm gonna tell you.
I can just do the thing.
I'm gonna tell you that
Yeah.
the strength of the Force between the average person in Star Wars is not as much as you think it is. People are Force sensitive. There tend to be a bunch of those, but like there are.
Why are you being analytical about this? I don't get you. Like,
Because I'm trying to say that if everybody has it, there's only going to be a few people who have strong Force powers to even do something like that. So like you're talking about like farming.
okay, well then we need to define.
The average farmer is only going to be able to pull one at a time and like be stressed out after like three.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we need to clarify: is this something that everybody has, or that are we dealing with this as if it were Jedi's, like, or you know what I mean? Like there are only a certain amount of people. I'm thinking of it as one day the entire world wakes up and everybody can force choke a bitch. Like that's in my scenario. That is like,
All right, if we're going with that specific scenario, the world goes into chaos. Can almost guarantee that nukes are going to get launched and stuff like that. So like
exactly. That's why I was saying like
That's what Nick has been saying.
Hope you've been investing in gold and silver.
again, that stretches the question further, right? Because again, not everybody gets these powers. Sometimes people get other things.
but in the same but in the same respect, like if I mean, I know who I am. I'm not that lucky. I know if this is posed to me, I'm not gonna magically wake up with force powers because that's just my luck.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
You know what I mean? Like
Totally. That's totally me too. I will be the if you think of to use
because I mentally force choke bitches all the time. Like so it would be immediate. It would be immediate if I didn't know I had the power. If I just woke up one day, I'd be like, "Fuck that bitch!" Like I wake up and get in the car and drive to work, and I am immediately angry just because people don't know how to drive. Period. Nowadays, I feel.
Yeah.
And like this one person cut me off yesterday, and I was like, "Fuck you, you dumb bitch!" Like in the car, and like if I just had that power, I would have killed her in that moment.
Yep.
Like I would have no restraint, especially if you're saying it's something that you would have to like learn like actual force. You know what I mean? Like if I had to learn to use it like the force in the movies,
Yeah.
I'd have no control and I'd always go to rage. Like rage would be the way that I carry out my force abilities.
And then you like
I know I would be a Sith.
well, you think like as many like in the news, there's so many like road rage shootings nowadays. Like that would basically be the same thing except way more widespread, you know?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
because I mean, yeah, the gun is really just a tool where you can affect something from afar. Same thing as force
Yeah.
choking a bitch.
But like, okay, so now thinking about this, I want a deleted scene from any of these Star Wars movies where there's like a traffic,
A traffic stop.
Yeah.
or maybe it's an SNL skit. Like there's an SNL skit where it's like the Jedi is like on his way to work and he gets road rage and accidentally like force chokes a bitch out and like causes a 5-car pileup on the Astro Way.
You know what would be better than SNL is a robot chicken skit with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like something they would do.
The Jedi having a dilemma about whether or not he's really good or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Robot Chicken was like the first thing I downloaded onto my when the newer iPods with video came out. I still
Yeah.
have mine somewhere in this house. And it still works. But I downloaded all of the Star Wars Robot Chickens because they were so good.
Nice. Yeah.
My favorite is like when they did like a Luke and Leia one and they're escaping for the first time.
hmm
And the stormtrooper's like, set your gun for stun, and then he shoots the stormtrooper, and the stormtrooper gathers the other stormtrooper. Is like, he said it to stun. It's like all this like emotional back. Is like
that was one of my favorite parts in the first season of The Mandalorian, where Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith are the stormtroopers with Grogu, and that whole like interaction was just like a big robot chicken, like couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many. In the
They just can't shoot the can. That one where they can't shoot the can.
No, the one where he like fists Grogu in the face because he fights him. They play
Oh,
the
Yeah.
the
Oh,
scout
yeah.
troopers on the land speeders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like that. I mean, they had a lot more fun in episode 7, 8, 9 with like guest stars and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what's his name that played James Bond? Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
He plays one of the first stormtroopers that
I didn't know that.
gets
Episode
yeah.
That's
7.
awesome.
It was episode 7.
He-
Like when they're trying to torture Ray,
Hmm.
he's the first one where she's like, "You will unlock the door." Like that's his little bit.
Yeah.
And then Simon Pegg is the boss in episode
Yes.
7.
Yes, I remember
That's
that.
giving the portions out.
Oh, cool.
Like they had a lot more fun on those episodes. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Daniel Craig thing was because he was already recording in the facility. Like, so like, they're like, oh, you want to just be a stormtrooper for a moment? And he's like, yeah.
yeah, why wouldn't you? Like,
Let me
real.
think.
it's fun
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I'll be I'll be brainwashed stormtrooper. Sure.
It just sucks that they fucked up that storyline by changing directors,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
That sucked, but
I still like
Yeah.
I still like them, but yeah, this definitely seemed like disjointed.
But yeah, especially that last one where they just tried to put 3 movies in one.
I mean, the
Chaos.
best thing that I think that came off of that was like a lot of the spin-offs or one-offs that have come off of the Star Wars, like even the animated series that have come from that have, like, Bad Batch, phenomenal series.
Yeah.
Which is the
I haven't watched any of the anime.
Bad Batch is so good. And I think they just released season 2.
Yeah.
But it's about clone, like it's like after the Clone War, or no, sorry, not after the Clone War. It's after the fall of the Jedis, and it's just like this group of clones, and
Yeah,
like
that would be
they're-
after the Clone Wars.
But I feel like the Clone Wars stretch a little. Like I feel like it's still within the Clone Wars, like saga, if you will, because there's still.
Yeah. It's like directly after Order 66, but yeah, there's still some
Yes,
Clone
yeah,
Wars
yeah,
to
yeah,
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's towards the end,
So-
but
Right, because it doesn't just stop immediately after all the Jedi
Yeah.
are basically extinguished. Like they still have more to do. So like there's
They're
things that happen.
dealing
I
with
haven't finished. I have one episode left of Andor to watch. I haven't watched the finale yet.
it was good.
But like that's again, Andy Serkis
yeah.
in that was like a great addition. Like they made a lot of good choices
Hmm.
to like really, I think, beef up. But Andy Serkis did one Marvel movie and now he's in everything and he's directing everything and
Yeah.
for fucking Disney.
It's just that story can only go so far because we already know how it ends.
I know, but that's why it's so good. That's why like they put the time and attention. It was just like Rogue One was so good. Like not just that, like the fact that it was like
Right, but that's it. Right, it had a finale, but then you're now making a prequel to that. So like
yeah.
okay, but you can't do this every time. Like that's not how this works.
It wouldn't be the first time that a cemented storyline got put off the rails. What happened in Inglourious Bastards?
What happened with Inglourious Bastards?
Oh my gosh.
They blew up Hitler in the theater.
Yes, but I thought you were trying to say like there's
Not just
more
that, like
to
he
Inglourious Bastards
like they
than
made
the movie.
him they waffle stomped his face.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
people do. I mean, they did that with I don't know. They do that all the time with storylines that are already there. And
Yeah, I
that's-
mean like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That I mean, none of that actually happened. Like Napoleon didn't, travel through time and space. I don't think.
I mean, I used a historic instance, but
Yeah, but that's different. That's not what I'm talking. That's not what I'm talking about though. I'm talking
I know.
about
We're just being
I know,
assholes.
I know. I'm talking
storylines are messed with all the time.
yes, but I'm just saying like sometimes when you have a good thing, just leave it alone.
That doesn't happen.
You risk doing more harm than good.
I don't think so. I think Andor made a lot more good than anything else. Probably the best series they've done so far.
It's good.
In addition to the
It is good.
Mandalorian stuff.
I'm not gonna deny that at all. It's just, they can't exactly make an Andor season 2, or I mean they could, but like now you're just really tempting fate. And
Of course they can. I think they already have it planned. They've already announced it.
Yeah.
See, like, but like this is like what I'm talking about is like you will ruin an entire series just because you want to make more money off of it. And like sometimes you can just do good, and
They're not going to ruin Andor by making a second season. They'll ruin Andor if they don't hire the same people to create the storyline in as much depth and like give it the same feel. You know what I mean? Like if they hire somebody, if they do what they did between episode 7 and episode 8 and hand it off to a different creative team, you're not going to get as good of a product. Same thing that I feel like happened between, Mandalorian season 2 and season 3. Well, Book of Boba Fett, but it was basically the Mandalorian season 3, the way that they built it. Like if you aren't careful about the team that you use, you're gonna lose quality. It's gonna lose that like sparkle that it got for being so good.
yeah, I don't want them to overdo it, and then like now I just don't like the whole Andor series, or I don't want to watch Rogue One in the future just because like, well, they ruined it with all the Andor stuff, so now I don't want to watch it. Like I don't want that. I would rather them just stop while they're ahead
But there's so much stuff they can do.
and let it be the golden trophy of movies.
I mean, he's just at the beginning of becoming a spy. There's so many things they could do with it that could lead up to Rogue One. Like it's not just, oh, Rogue One is obviously like the next freaking thing he's gonna do. They made it like he was gonna be opening to getting into this whole spy career, possibly. And I think that's what they said he was in Rogue One, right? He said he was a spy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got to have a foundation. He has to have a foundation to claim I'm a spy.
I mean, yes, but I mean, like you could establish.
Yeah, in Rogue One, he dies.
Right. I know that, but I'm just saying.
In Rogue One, he dies in the mission to get.
Yes, but that's what I was saying was like it. That's the definitive ending, right? So like it can't go past there. He can't die before then. So everything leads up to that. So you can just fill in the gap with your mind.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like that's what these creatives are doing. They're filling in the gaps with the storyline that is already written down. Most of Star Wars was a written text. Like it was a book series before it was a movie, and back and forth. I mean, I think George Lucas started writing books. I would have to look it up, but
I thought it started as like one series, and then like he took over the series or something, and then like created Star Wars as we know it, but not like as books anymore, but as the movie. And then like then the actual books went and based off of that. So
I have a volume of books that like span in between like episode 1 and episode 4. Like one of them is like a Darth Maul series, which is also covered in the animated series because Darth Maul, I hope I'm not ruining this for anybody, but if you haven't watched the Clone Wars series, Darth Maul doesn't die. He's not, when he gets chopped in half, he's not dead. Yeah, so like he falls down. Like because he was sliced in half, like, nothing fell out. Like he was instantly cauterized from the cut of the,
Yep.
saber, and he like loses his memory, but then someone repairs him and like he becomes half machine. Like he's got like this spider machine that like is like his legs.
Yeah.
And then he slowly relearns that he had use of the force. And it's like there's this whole storyline. But I have that.
He becomes half General Grievous.
But I have that in book form. You know what I mean? I went on this tangent. I forget what I was fucking saying. Oh, what I was going to say was, for Andor specifically, there's a whole storyline with Saw Gerrera. Because, like, if you see him in Rogue One, he is, like, falling apart and, like, being held together with machines. But in the beginning of Andor, he has none of that machinery holding him together, if that makes sense. So like that to me can also be the next, because like that can also be part of Andor, I feel like.
for sure.
Could also be just part of like what whatever animated series, too. I mean, I
You,
could
and
totally
you
be.
don't have to watch Steve.
Yeah, you can
This
just
is
turn the
true.
TV off, Steve.
This is true, but I do like entertainment, and if it's part of a franchise I've already watched, then at least it's just there already. It's entertainment. I can
I mean,
watch it.
stop
And
crying about it before it even happened.
I'm just saying, Kenobi was a disappointment.
It was a little flat.
I disagree with you.
I know
but
you do,
okay.
but it was a huge disappointment.
I enjoyed Kenobi quite a bit as well.
I liked it, but it was a little more whiny and flat.
I mean, but that is what the character turns into.
True.
Like his entire
My problem with Kenobi is that
yeah.
by the time you see episode 4, right? Episode 4, he has the force powers. He's totally able to use them 100%, no problem. But he's been suppressing his powers the entire time. In Kenobi, he suppressed his powers and then lost them somehow, which is not how the force works.
No, there's a difference. And I think that's what they're trying to establish, right? Like he shut himself off to the force
Right.
completely in Kenobi. And he did that for two reasons. One, so that no one else could feel him through the force. And two, because he felt like he is the reason why Darth Vader's come to power.
I would agree with you if they didn't specifically specify that he was still trying to reach out to his master. He clearly thought that he still had powers. He just couldn't use them anymore. Like that. No, that doesn't.
Well,
track.
what Nick was getting at,
and then all of a sudden, at the very end, all of a sudden now has his powers again. There's no mental healing happening yet. So like he needed to get into a place like a state of mind first that would have been like to repair his whatever emotional trauma to do that. But he didn't do any of that. He just all of a sudden was able to use it again, which meant that the only thing stopping him from using the powers was the plot.
all right.
Like that's it.
But yeah, I was thinking this along the same lines as Nick, where because he had blocked off himself to the force for so long, like it took him a while to like get his groove back, so to say.
Yeah. It should have been called like when Kenobi gets his groove back.
That's what
Exactly.
I thought. Yep.
Because at that point it had been like years of him not like in touch with the force, which is like antithetical to how Jedi live.
Well, and that's I feel like what they tried to establish. I would say I think that it was smart to make it a series versus a movie, because in a movie it would have only been 2 hours and you would have lost. I mean, maybe you could have done a little bit better with the storytelling aspects of it, like 5 years later, 10 years later, something like that. But I get where you're coming from, Steve. I agree with you. I think there were like, we need to make this work with the plot, but also it's a fake story, right? Like,
Is
Yeah.
it?
and when he really wanted to force choke a bitch, he was able to. Those battle scenes with Darth Vader were phenomenal. Like, even if you didn't like the plot line, there were some really great aesthetics to how they built up towards the end. Like, I personally wanted the entire the last 3 episodes, I wanted that to be the whole series.
I do not disagree with the scene thing at all. I think that there were very good scenes in there, but I feel like they created a bad storytelling scenario by just saying that he didn't have his powers, because it just, none of that stuff tracked, especially getting up to that end point. They could have just solved their problems by just saying that he just wasn't using the force, or if he had a mental trauma, that maybe he spent some time trying to work through the mental trauma, and then maybe the rest of the story unfolds or something of that nature. Just like
Yeah.
is something different.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I'm just like, I'm agreeing with you, but in the same thing, I think maybe they just tried the wrong tactics to build that up, because they do try to talk through the trauma of like what he did, and they do try to, like, for anybody that didn't watch, episode 1, 2, and 3, like they do try and go like he is blaming all of what's currently happening on him. Like he is responsible for the reason why the empire is here and why the empire is taking over and basically enslaving the world. You know what I mean? Like I felt like they did a really good job at doing that, but maybe for not for everybody. Maybe it reads as weak for you because you are a Star Wars fan, whereas for me, like I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm also like in the TV and film world. Like there's probably hours of footage or hours of filming that got edited and cut out that could have supported what you're doing better. It's just like at the end, you also have to remember like they're selling you a thing.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And I'm not saying that there's that there couldn't have been something else that maybe they cut out. You know, I'm talking about like just from the story aspect perspective, you know, like the perspective of where they took the story. Like I'm not a super fan. I'm not gonna say like I know everything about the Star Wars universe. I do not. But like the parts that bugged me were just like big loopholes that they just didn't like avoid entirely. Like they, like he's reaching out and sensing that Vader is there,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have his powers. So like that doesn't make any sense. So like you know, there's just like a lot of this continuity, like you know, of what they're saying versus what he's doing. So like
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I think they could have done that better, and then you know maybe led up to that ending better, because the ending was not a bad ending. It was good. I mean, it just resulted in basically the exact same scenario that we were already in, but you know, I felt like in the end, it was a story that didn't need to be told.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, some of them are. Some I mean, right? Cuz you already know what the ending is. Like there are some like I don't personally I felt like Boba Fett was a reach. Um it's actually super funny if you haven't watched Patton Oswalt
Yep.
in a bit, like basically described like 5, 10 years ago the entire opening to the Boba Fett. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there are just some passion projects where people really love a character, so they're trying to create a story and a base, even though you already know what's happened to them. And that to me is like a lot of it is just about monetary gain. You know what I mean? Like the Mandalorian, I'm Grogu in and of itself was somebody went, that's going to make us a lot of money. You know what I mean? And then they were right. You know, because it's Disney and they have marketing. But that was a really unique storyline. That was like they also said this is a unique storyline and we can play with it. You know what I mean? Because there are no expectations. I think
Yeah.
that's the same thing with Andor and Rogue One. Like there were no expectations as to how that story. Like we know how the story ends for Rogue One, but like there's no one knows anything about these characters, so we can really world build. I feel like you have certain expectations based on episodes 1 through 3, and based on how Kenobi is in episode 4. Like you have a very strong idea of who this character should be, and there's no like I maybe they should have said it later in life and not used a different actor. You know what I mean? Like Ben Kenobi in his it's kind of funny to think about it because he looks the same as he did when he was in fucking episode 3, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but
because he's 50.
Yeah.
He is 50 and he just had a kid too. It's fucking nuts. But
God helps.
like maybe they should have used someone that looked older.
I just think that they could have, you know, if they were trying to tell the story of him getting over his emotional trauma, they could have gone with a different story that didn't end in him fighting Vader. Like he could have gotten through it the same way, just not having to fight Vader. And like they could have told a different story that, you know, like he was concerned because he didn't have, you know, the right control over the Force anymore because he was, you know, mentally messed up, and there was a kid who needed help and he had to save a kid to like, you know, to eventually find himself through the trauma or whatever, what happened. You know, stuff like that. Just like, you know, they could have done a different story and still told that same healing aspect is what I think. And
Mm.
I feel like if it was just going to end in him fighting Vader and then hiding back on the planet again and hiding himself from everybody again, it just didn't really do anything for him.
Yeah, but he was doing, I mean, the overarching aspect of it, which I think you're forgetting, is like his only goal was to keep Luke safe. That was his goal. And like whatever he had to do. So like there's also like this layer of like, this is the only thing I can do. This is the only thing I have left to do, and it's the only thing I have to do right. So like you have to balance that between the mental state and whatnot. I didn't know we were going to have a mental health chat today. Jesus Christ.
I know, right?
I mean, this has gone pretty far off the rails.
I mean, you mentioned something about the Mandalorian and whatnot, and about Grogu, and I'm like, that's another example of like they didn't need to put Luke in there. The whole thing would work fine without Luke. Like they could have just avoided the Skywalkers entirely, and they chose not to. I think they did it so this way when in history it took place, and like there's plenty of other ways you could have done that.
Well, I mean, they're also trying to establish, right? They're trying to establish, like, I feel like they're retconning a lot of like the stuff that he talks about in episode 7. Like, I'm assuming that we're going to see, like, right? Like, at some point, I feel like we're going to see an adult Grogu and an adult Kylo Ren battle it out based on like how they set up how Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker interact. You know what I mean? Like the whole premonition of, he had to kill, you know what I mean? Like, and then I feel like they explain it in episode 8 or 9 where Kylo Ren kills all the other students that Luke Skywalker was training too.
Yeah.
So like I feel like they're building more worlds out of the scraps that they have left. Which to me is exciting. Whether or not they hit the mark, it's good, but it's still fucking exciting.
I had an idea for like the description of this podcast. It should be in which our heroes get very, very far off track in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, man.
I was going to try to bring it back, but you guys were going on and on and on.
Yeah, but like that's the point, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be kind of free flowing, see where it goes and where it leads us. And I think that brought us to where we are now.
Yes. And, if you're feeling low, check in, call people, all that serious stuff. Mental health is important. Take care of yourself.
If you have any feedback and want us to discuss something or not to discuss something, or if you have an idea for a topic, please let us know.
Yeah, because as you can tell, most of ours are Star Wars themed.
I wonder why that was.
I mean,
I wonder who wrote those questions.
It's kind of scary that we're not a Star Wars podcast. Maybe we should start listing ourselves as a Star Wars podcast as well.
That's it. We'll change our cover art and we'll just be all Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I have ideas. We can do things.
I mean, I made a purple lightsaber at Disney, so I've got my lightsaber.
You made a what?
A purple lightsaber at Disney.
Oh yeah. I did not have the money. Like I had spent all my money just to get there to do, the rides. I didn't have enough money to do anything.
We went big on some things because it was our honeymoon, but yeah.
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, I built a red lightsaber. Shockingly,
Did you go to the cantina?
We did.
yeah, it was cool.
When we went before the pandemic, they had just opened a lot of that stuff, and like the big experiential ride hadn't opened yet, but the cantina was awesome.
Yeah,
And I got the drink that like numbs your tongue.
nice.
Yeah. Joe got a non-alcoholic one, but it had like
dry ice on the bottom, so it would like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I got
Bubble.
Yeah.
I got a beer, and his drink was way cooler than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, there's like the DJ that they use, like the robot, that is a callback to the original Star Tours.
Yep.
That was the first. Like he was the animatronic, not the exact one, but that character is what led you through Star Tours.
Yeah, instead of
and they just keep reusing him in different fashions as they build the world. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think one of your Disney podcast. Explain that.
Okay, anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for the great chat, and I'll see you next time.
Likewise,
ya.
buddy.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey,
Bye,
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy. Bye, Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy. Bye, Jimmy. Okay, I'm ending the recording.
Thanks for listening to Hey Jimmy. Big shout out to Anthony Morantz for our voiceover, Skane Music for creating our intro, and Sergio Duarte for creating our cover. All artists can be found on the freelance platform Fiverr. You can catch Hey Jimmy every week on all major streaming platforms.